white, middle class community. It was that was largely built upon aerospace, and before there were several kind of booms and busts in the aerospace field, and a lot of people um, lost jobs, got laid off, and the economy of the place kind of switched up. Um, and then as I started going to elementary school and getting a little older, there were more and more folks of color, predominantly folks from Latin America, largely Mexican, some Cuban, some Bolivian, folks starting to come through the neighborhood. And I think by the time I was in high school, it was predominantly Latino, at least where I was living. Not a whole lot of Asian Americans, a couple of Filipino families, like you could literally count them on your hands, and when we would have family parties, they were all at our house or somebody else's house. And so it's very different from Daly City, where, my students who are coming up in high school age, and they're in a school that's 44% Filipino, 42% Filipino, 20-some percent Asian American or Asian, 20-some percent, some odd percent Latino, and it's hardly any white students in the public schools. And so for me, it's a trip to be teaching in this environment and not seeing them be as anxious as I was and being as uncomfortable in their own skin as I was. And it's actually really beautiful to sort of see that. They don't realize it, most of them, because, how can they? That's all they know. But the students who end up, my ex-students who end up going to college in Southern California or other parts of the country, that's the first thing they say. It's different. I didn't realize, for example, the Filipino students are just like, yeah, I don't know, I just figured it's Filipino, who cares, like, whatever. And then I left and I realized, whoa, like, people don't even know what Filipino is. Like, people look at me and they're like, are you Asian Mexican? Or like, and they say these really ignorant things, and the students are kind of like, whoa. And, I tell them, yeah, that's kind of how I grew up. And so it's a different kind of deal. In terms of economically, though, I think they're probably very similar. But racially and in terms of nationality, it's very different.
Okay. What events growing up has impacted your views on social justice in the community?
Ooh. I talk a lot about the immigrant experience, and I was not an immigrant. I was born in Los Angeles. My parents came here in 1970. But after martial law, and actually during martial law, my family did whatever they could to try and get most of their family here. So all my dad's brothers and sisters and all of my mom's brothers and sisters are now here in the United States, because during that time they really tried to bring everybody over, including my grandparents, who are no longer alive today. But back then, the reason I kind of feel that connection to that experience is because that's what I saw. Our house was the house that was sort of like the way station, right? The first stop, where families would come in, and my cousins would live with us for like 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, until they could find a spot of their own, and then their family would move out. So I mean, at one point we had, there was a lot of people living in the house. What, like 10 to 12 people at one point living in our home, and yeah, I think that has really affected me in terms of my understanding of what family is, for example, or what it means to be Filipino. Because I think, I don't know, some people think, like, when I was growing up, I'd hang out with other Filipinos who were like, dude, you're whitewashed. Like, I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And they're thinking, like, I've got my Honda, and like, you're not a Hauser, and you don't got cool orange hair and a cool fade, and like, and dance, like, you're into punk rock, like, what? Like, and, but to me, I kind of grew up with more of like in terms of what it was meant to be Filipino, it's like definitely there was the language that was spoken around that I would hear. But also, things like every weekend you go to Lola's house and there's like 30 people there and you're eating food and hanging out and just being a family and running around playing stupid games with cans and like whatever you can. And to me, like that's Filipino, not all this extra stuff that I couldn't connect to. I don't know. That definitely shaped me. I think there were some other things in terms of like dealing with overt individual racism, interpersonal racism, where, just ignorant folks who are also, who are victims of racism themselves, just sort of like, what's up, chink, or, hey, you like that guy from Pretty in Pink, or, everything. You hear it all, and I was talking earlier about going to shows and getting singled out and jumped by the lads, as this skinhead gang. And yeah, why? Because of my skin, because of my eyes, and sort of, I think that those two experiences really, really, really stick out. There's, anyways, that's it.
Anything recently in terms of racism towards you?
Oh God, it gets to the point where you don't even notice sometimes, but it's really simple things. Like, the thing is, like, when I talk about racism, it's like my understanding is like there's sort of different levels, right? And the interpersonal stuff that people say ignorantly, like one person to another person on the comments or whatever, I've kind of come to the point where I realize, like, that person's ignorant, and I'm not, but they're ignorant because they were taught to be ignorant. And so, when I say they're victims of racism, I mean they're victims of the institution of racism that teaches this shit, that keep honest representations of Asian Americans out of the media, or that target groups of immigrants, like right on 9/11, the Filipino airport screeners who were sort of targeted. Those kinds of things to me are really dangerous. And I look at that's what freaks me out. It's the system of racism. But on the individual level, I see that stuff a lot, whether it's directed at me or it's directed at students. A lot of it's just straight up ignorance, though. I mean, people just saying really stupid things that they might not be aware of. Trying to think of an example. Well, it's just really ignorance. It's not. I don't slight people for. I'm not gonna say that they're. I don't blame people necessarily. But when I was younger, I did. I get pissed off. But like, for example, recently, colleague, I think she assumed I was Latino because she started talking to me about Latino things, and I was kind of, it was sort of like, oh, I like this, like, oh, I like whatever, I like Mexican food, and I was like, and there was like this layer of things around Cesar Chavez Day, and I'm kind of like, why are you telling me this? And so I kind of put on, and then being Filipino, and you could do that sort of light bulb goes on. I mean, that's not their fault. It's just not knowing, whatever. But I hear things. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Period.
Okay. Do you think your professional life reflects your own personal views? Like in your work as a teacher or as a musician, does it like you reflect in that work your personal views of like politically?
What do you mean? Do like my personal beliefs, political beliefs, or whatever?
Yeah, the personal.
Come out in my professional life?
Yeah. Like
on the teaching on the day-to-day, or
teaching and music.
Oh yeah. And I think that's true of every single person. whether you're the richest white